Well, good morning. It's great to see you, and welcome back to the shop. Where a couple of days ago, while I was recording a segment for another video that I was working on, I had the occasion to use this handsaw for the first time in quite a while. And I'm not going to say too much about how that went because I don't think that anything I say could really do it justice. I think the best way to explain it to you is to show you a short clip from that video, and then we can talk about it. So let's take a look at that. Here we go. Okay, all right. Okay, that's enough. That's enough of that. That was horrific. And all I can say is no live organisms were harmed in the making of that video. Everything turned out okay. If you want to check that video out in its entirety, I'll leave the link in the description, or you can check the playlist. I can just say that with some creative editing, you probably can't really tell in that video the struggle bus that I was on to just cut those short pieces of wood. Obviously, this saw is dull. A lot of people would say, it's time to go get another saw, put this one in the trash bin, make it a wall hanger. But, this was my old man's saw, and I believe it still has some life in it. The reason I say that is because these saws, you can sharpen these saws, and I believe that, it's just been neglected. That's on me. It has been hanging on the wall over here for a while, and we're going to show it a little love today and sharpen these teeth and clean this up a little bit. So I'm going to show you how we do that. If that's something that sounds interesting to you, stick around. So before we get into it, let's back up a second and talk about this saw, because that does play into exactly if and how we're going to sharpen the teeth on this saw. As I said, this saw was my dad's saw and likely purchased sometime back in the early 1960s. And back then, they did not harden the teeth of saws. The blades were tempered, the teeth were tempered, it was all one piece of steel, and these teeth can be sharpened as a result of that. Today, a lot of the saws, in fact, most of the saws that are sold, especially in the big box stores, have hardened steel teeth that are a different piece of steel, and they use a special method to attach the teeth to the rest of the blade, and those teeth cannot be sharpened. And I'm going to take a quick detour, take a second and go over to one of the big box stores and pull out a saw and just show you how you can tell whether the teeth have been hardened or not. Here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. We've got a saw here that's a Craftsman. Not sure who makes it anymore. I'm sure it's not a Sears. It's just a brand name that has been sold off. But it's a decent saw, and for $17, I think it's probably a pretty good value. But you can see the teeth here at the bottom are blackened. They're a different color than the rest of the steel. These teeth have been hardened and attached to that steel, and they're extremely sharp, and they'll stay sharp for a good long while. And this will do a very effective job. But these teeth cannot be sharpened. These teeth are just as hard as the file you'd be using, and if not harder, and so it's just going to wear your file away. Okay, so that is a quick tutorial on how to tell if you're dealing with a saw that's got hardened teeth that can't be sharpened, or just tempered teeth like we've got here that can be sharpened. So that's the, if we can sharpen the teeth on the saw. So let's now talk about the how we're going to sharpen the teeth on this saw. First, I want to point out that this is a crosscut saw, and that's important because that determines how we're going to sharpen this saw. And you can tell that it's a crosscut saw because of the way that it is.
This is an aspen. You can tell that it's an aspen tree because of the way it is.
No, seriously. There's a way to tell if it's a crosscut saw, and that is, I don't know if you can see this or not, but those teeth are alternating back and forth, back and forth. Every other one is angled to one side or the other. So every tooth either is angled to the left or to the right. I'm going to pull out this. Let's see. I've got a magnifying glass here, and I'm going to show you on the magnifying glass what I'm talking about. So I don't know if you can see that or not, but you can see those teeth are angled, you know, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. So we're going to have to sharpen every other tooth from one angle and then turn it around and sharpen every other, the alternating tooth, every other tooth from the other angle. So what we're going to need is a small triangular file. I'm going to go into Dad's magic drawer here with all the stuff and take a look at the file section. I would be shocked if I didn't find something that would work. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. Here's a file. Let's take a look here. Here's another one. This one looks kind of worn out. This one looks like it might work. There's another one right here. This one's got a cross cut feature to it. I don't know if that would be something we could use or not, but one of these two should work. Again, a small triangular shaped file where we can get in the teeth down into the corner of those teeth and get to work on that. So I think we found what we need. Let's get to work. All right, so after all that, we are ready to get to work on filing these teeth down to a sharp point again. The first thing you need to do is to get your saw set up, you know, in a vise, someplace where you can clamp it down, and also a couple of pieces of scrap wood on either side of the blade to keep it from wobbling back and forth. You want that nice and stiff so it doesn't move, because we're going to put a little bit of pressure on this. We don't want it chattering back and forth on us. So full disclosure, I have already sharpened one side of this saw, the teeth that are facing one way, and now I'm getting ready to file the other teeth. So we're going to go every other tooth. Let me see if I can't get this on the magnifying glass so you can see what I'm talking about. There's really a stark difference between the ones that have been sharpened and the ones that haven't been sharpened yet. Okay, so here's a good example, a real close-up, as much as I can get. I hope you can see that this tooth here is facing towards me, and you can see that it's kind of discolored on this edge here. It hasn't been sharpened yet. Then this one is facing away, and you can see that it's nice and shiny. It has been sharpened. And now this one, again, is facing towards me, and it hasn't been sharpened, and so on. And they're every other one like that. And we don't have to file these teeth to death. 3 or 4 strokes tops per tooth, and then move on to the next one. All right, so here we go. Okay, now we're going to skip one. We're going to skip one. And we're done. All right, now that we got the teeth on our saw all sharpened up, we're going to turn our attention to the rest of the blade. So let's put these files back so we know where they are next time we need them, and get going on this. Well, I'm going to try some of this rust remover and see how that works. It says just pour it on. I'm going to apply it with a little bit of steel wool, just kind of get it on there, and then the instructions say to just let it sit for 30 minutes or so. So we'll put this on there, let it do its thing, and we'll come back in a little bit and see what we've got. Okay, it's only been about 10 minutes. I'm kind of wiping some of this excess off. Probably should have some neoprene gloves on or something like that to protect my hands, because this is a mild acid, but you know, we'll work our way through it. Well, that's made some headway. I'm going to put a little bit more on. I see that it's getting rid of the trademark too, but that's okay. Just want to get this blade kind of cleaned up, and then, you know, put a protective lubricant on it to keep it from rusting again, and that'll also help it slide through a cut a lot easier. So let me put some more of this on, give it another few minutes, and we'll come back to this. Take this handle off. because we can. The solution on here. And we'll let that sit for 10, 15 minutes or so, and we'll come back to it. All right, that looks 1,000% better as well on both sides. Take a look at that side and that side. So we've gotten, most of the rust off, and so I'm going to see if I can't blue this up a little bit. It also helps remove any of the residual rust, and we'll see how that looks. I don't know. The first step is I want to rub this all with rubbing alcohol just to get the little pieces off. You can see how dirty it is. All right, here goes nothing. Just darkening that up right away, but not evenly. Interesting. I like that blue. That's kind of cool. I really like that blue. That's really cool. All right, boy, doesn't that look great? Love that sheen. That looks so much better. That side too. I guess I don't have any complaints about that. Let's put some oil on this blade, and then let's give it the old cut test. Going to use little hops number 9, bench rest machine oil. Just a little bit, and we'll wipe it off lightly. Just to leave a little sheen in there, but that really brings out that blue too. Look at that. That really just looks nice. I'm so glad I did this. Now, if it just cuts well, we'll have had a very successful day. Okay, I think we're going to call that good. Well, I get a board ready to cut, and we'll see how this actually works. This is actually the offcut from that board that was being sawn in that video clip that I shared earlier. So it's the same board. We're going to give it a shot here. Just going to cut straight across. Always harder to get it started. So much better. And that's it. Wow, that is sharp. Cut my bench up. But yeah, I mean, that took, what, 10 seconds? And the other one, I was literally at that other one for a good 3 minutes trying to get through that. So I would call that a success. We've got a working sharp saw again. So we will call that a successful day. Okay, well, that's going to do it for this one. I appreciate you guys sticking with me through the long explanations and the boring stuff, but I think it's worth it to go through that stuff. Certainly for folks who are tuning in to to see if they can get some tips on how to sharpen a saw. At any rate, I hope you found it informative. I hope you found it entertaining. Hope you learned a few things. I know that I did, as always, and I appreciate you being here. Feel free to leave comments if you see anything that you've noticed or have anything to say. I'd love to hear from you, and we will see you in the next episode. Boy, how's that for a good-looking wall hanger? I love it.